Hi, everybody. It's really nice to look at all of you guys, like with your little smiling faces, and you look really beaming. And yeah, definitely filled with love. I have to tell you, it was really interesting to work on this talk because I've talked about love, and love is a vibration that I totally relate to, and I feel it just kind of moves through me pretty easily. But you know, there's so many different meanings of love, and I really wanted to focus on, for me, what I believe this time of Advent is really about. And if you think about just the rituals that we experience in our lives, this isn't our first Advent, it's not our first rodeo, it's not the first time we've looked at peace or at faith or at hope, right? Right. So what really is Advent about? And for me, this is an opportunity for what I would call spiritual conditioning or developing spiritual muscles. I feel like what we do is we know that in the month of December, we could choose to be really busy buying gifts or, prepping our house, and maybe if Christ isn't our path, we're in the midst of looking at other light festivities and other ways that we celebrate light. But either way, this isn't our first rodeo. And so it's very interesting that when I decided to look up consciousness in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, it says that a state of consciousness is a certain phase of mind built up through thinking of some particular idea. It's very important to understand our place of consciousness in spiritual growth, because while all divine ideas, such as love, life, substance, intelligence, are eternal and omnipresent, they are not so until we incorporate them into our consciousness. Time and attention prior to the event is really what we're doing. So all of these really wonderful things, like, what did they talk about here? Substance, intelligence, love, and life, they exist. They're 24 hours a day, and they're accessible to every single person in the world. Not just us in here, but everybody. It's what consciousness do we choose to apply? How mindfully do we want to bring in these different vibrations that we're talking about? And so when we step back and we look at the 4 weeks of Advent, what we're really talking about is what is the focus of the concentration that we're allowing our hearts and our minds to engage in? What is our discipline? So Jesus chose 12 disciples. Disciples mean the study of. Discipline means the study of. So when we talk about disciplining ourselves to have a new consciousness, what we're saying is, what are the activities that we're engaging in each and every day to decide to live a more fuller life into this world? It's not about what's out there. It's only about the container that we are. We are human beings. And so in here, we meet on a Sunday so that we can have this joyful kind of beautiful greetings and love and feeling this amplified feeling so that it feeds our body, our mind, and our spirit to give us guidance and direction for where we're going to be going for the next week. That's the purpose of church. We can be a church with no walls, as we've learned. But this is where church begins. And then we enjoy that church with each other. Okay, to be real, I did not plan that one at all. I just made my notation here and highlight on the Metaphysical Dictionary, so I have no idea. But the reality is if you think about it, and this is where I was thinking about it. I was thinking about Mary. So Mary was really little. And if we think about developmental milestones of a little person, just think about this. Some angel decides to show up to Mary and is like, hey, by the way, I got some news for you. You're going to be pregnant. And not only that, but this pregnancy is going to change your life. Because inside of you, you're carrying this abundant, magnificent Christ. The highest consciousness that is going to change the way we think. I mean, I'm 54. If you came to me and said that, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to Wawa, I'm going to go get coffee, and I'll meet you guys later. There's just no way I'd be signing up for that. I'd be like, not me. So, do we really think, though, that that's how it went for Mary? I think so. And I think that if we really look at this metaphysically, Mary was pregnant with vibration. She carried vibration. She carried faith and peace and love. And she delivered joy. That's just my own thought, though. So she was pregnant with all of this. And the walk that she had to walk prior to delivery day, which is December 25th, but not really, because we do know that. It's just the day it's assigned. Prior to that day, here she was. And she probably had to have lots of visits from angels who said, it's really okay. You're doing great. Don't worry about that extra weight you're carrying. Oh, you're craving chocolate? No problem. Don't worry about it, because once you have that baby, you're going to lose that baby fat. No instant like that. These guys are looking at me like, well, we've never had a baby. We don't know what you're talking about. Thank goodness. That's my daughters. I get to say that to them. Uh-huh. So I really have this feeling that Mary had to have kind of like an advisory team to help support her as she went through her pregnancy. And I'm feeling that maybe Joseph was feeling a little awkward too, because he was assigned the father. Right? Yeah, he didn't say, I'm willing. They said, you are a disciple of the Lord. And I am calling upon you to bring the grace and the love and the joy that you are. And Joseph said yes. So we're called into this. Each one of us, every year, as we celebrate this ritual. When I was in seminary, I became really interested in the Jewish traditions. And I became really interested in them because it's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. It's the way you live your life. And what's really cool about it is that they don't believe in a passive existence. Individuals who practice Judaism have an action-based life. They're very active in their way of being. So it really made me look at this commandment, the one that I mentioned, to love God with all your heart and with your soul and with your mind and with your strength. So how could love then be passive, right? Would God ever give us a commandment that was passive? I don't think so. I don't think that that was the nature of God. I think God invites us into action and invites us to look at and figure out, how is love that verb? How do I condition my mind, my heart, and my soul to be the activity of love, not the passivity of love? Years ago, okay, everybody probably knows I came from Jersey, right? Yeah. Right. Sorry, Melvin, I probably blew you, right? But that's important, because when I lived in Jersey and people would say, hey, how you doing? Nobody meant it. Nobody even practically looked at your eyes, right? They'd be like, hey, how you doing? Oh, you're from Jersey? Hey, what exit? And it just didn't, it was just like a marker, check, okay. And then, due to life circumstances, we moved to Georgia. Savannah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Wild, right? I had such an awakening there, because what happened for me is when people would say, hey, how you doing? They looked at you and they meant it, and they waited for the answer. And all of a sudden, I couldn't be invisible anymore. All of a sudden, I had to have some kind of an answer, other than, oh, really good. Like, honestly, living in a small town, your stuff does get out. No, really. I had maggots crawling around on my floor in my kitchen because I didn't know that you shouldn't have a compactor as a garbage can. And so I called Dana at the doctor's and I said, hey, I need you to come home right away because we have maggots all over. So then I was at the Piggly Wiggly. I'm in line. And the lady there says, hey, how you doing? I heard you had those maggots on the kitchen floor. I'm a very private person, so I didn't know what to do with that. So I said, oh. But what I learned is, yes, that was an activity of love. Somebody actually did care. Somebody went outside of themselves to engage in a heartfelt moment, even though I was embarrassed. Right? So, again, we have this whole piece of love as a verb, and us being invited into this. And why is that important right now? Well, I look around at the world and I think that what the world needs now is love, more love, definitely. And I wanted to tell you guys that sometimes acting in the place of love can be really difficult. Isn't it true? Yeah. I look at my parents over here and I think that they're a perfect example of this. So on the right side of my mom's head, those gray hairs, they're my responsibility. On the left side, they're my brothers. Now, we have my dad, okay? I'm responsible for any gray that's on the top of his head. But my brother, he's got the sides.
There isn't any gray on top of his head.
That's the point. That made me the better child. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No worries.
Okay. I definitely think that as we are in the process of practicing love, it's a conditioning. It's a conditioning of our minds and our hearts. And yeah, it takes patience. Viktor Frankl, the man, are you guys familiar with, he wrote The Man in Search of Meaning. He talks about the fact that between stimulus and response is a pause. Okay? And that in this pause is where we get to make choice. Should I say that one again? Because there's some going on. Yeah. So in between stimulus and response is a space. That's actually where the Holy Spirit comes in. That's where we invite in the Holy Spirit to guide us to make a different choice, to choose with right action, as Jesus would say. And in that choice, in that space, lives freedom. Because if we do make a different choice, we've now allowed ourselves to break an old conditioned habit and embark on a new journey. Right? We've made a left turn, or what I know, we didn't go straight, because straight maybe wasn't working. So how do we activate this in our lives? Obviously, if we're going to be disciples of this, we need to have some daily practice, right? And it means that we're going to have to invite a mindfulness to our way of living, that we're going to have to be inviting in walking with purpose. So one of the ways that we do this is I'll speak for me. What I did is at night before I would go to bed, I'd kind of do a day review, and mentally, and I would make a decided effort to forgive, to let go of anything that came in to my life that day that did not serve me or my highest good, or anywhere that I did not serve another. I had to forgive myself. Because if I'm not forgiving myself for my own indiscretions, I'm still carrying an old consciousness. I'm still showing up the way I had before. And I'm not choosing that. I'm choosing a new way. Which means that we also need to practice loving kindness, which involves tenderness and compassion to ourselves. To remember that, in fact, we really are always doing our best, no matter what that looks like. Our best, for agreements, our best changes from day to day, from moment to moment. If you have a headache, your best is going to look differently than when you're hungry. I picked hungry because I get hangry, right? Okay. I can grin when I have a headache. I don't grin when I'm hungry. Some people don't get out of bed early and well, so that's their best. It all depends, but just to be allowing in that. And let's talk about a lesson that Stratton taught us. I loved his consciousness. He would say, when you're going to pay your bills, if you have any anxiousness around your financial prosperity or your abundance, do not write a check until you have cultivated the vibration of love and abundance in your body. And one of the ways to do that is to invite your imagination to take hold and imagine the receivers of paychecks for the people that you're writing a check to. So you hate paying like the electric bill. Close your eyes. Imagine people getting their paychecks at Dominion Energy, or whatever it's called. Imagine that they're buying money, buying food, or Christmas gifts, or furniture, or whatever. And that your finances are blessing someone else. That's how we cultivate love in action. But the one more important is what we were talking about in our daily word, which is service. That's love in action. Because when we are deciding to be of service, then what happens is we get to condition ourselves and our own consciousness each moment. So we have the Thurman Brisbane thing coming up, right? Could it be true, maybe, for somebody in this room, that you signed up for that at one point and then was like, oh God, I just don't feel like doing that? Or ushering, or being with the kids, or doing laundry for your children. Or taking them food shopping, and then having them have a bad case of the gimmies. Could there be any time when you wanted to do something of service and you just didn't want to do it? Yeah, we all are, every one of us, but that's the conditioning part. It's about connecting with the spirit of love and the recognition of why something occurs and the flow that is going to come back to you when you give selflessly. And what happens is the more that you give, the more you really, really will receive. But only if you're connected to the vibration. See, it doesn't matter what we do if we're not of right mind. And that's the service part. You know, love is always this thing that everybody tries to measure when we would put the kids to bed or whatever. we would always do this. I am going to do it. I love you all the way up to here on God. Right? Do you think God had long hair? You did? Well, look, now we know why your hair is that long, right? Yeah. And yet, we knew it really wasn't a quantifiable thing. It's just a way that we express. But there is no quantity in love. There either is you love or there isn't you love. A Course in Miracles reminds us we're either coming from a place of love or from fear. And the fear is the wounded part of our hearts that may not be courageous to show up for forgiveness, for service, or for love. So we are the activity of love in motion. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it is.
Like, wow. So next week is Christmas Eve when we meet. And we're going to begin by celebrating our fourth candle, which is joy, which culminates Mary's pregnancy. We'll see if she's still wanting any chocolate. I don't know. Did you see that? I patted that belly. And then we're going to move into our Christmas service. So we're celebrating Christmas Eve and Christmas Day both together. And we're going to be celebrating on Christmas Day the birth of the Christ consciousness alive in each one of us. And so the invitation to each one of you this week is to look at how you're engaging in the world. And allow yourself to walk mindfully into this world, knowing that you and the love you are providing, your love in action, is rippling and touching the hearts of everyone and coming back and then embracing you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.